Public sentiment is everything, as Lincoln said. But for public sentiment to prevail, people have to know. And we want to be sure that people know what this means in the lives of America's families, or not even families, just in terms of American women and their decisions. Indeed, we must ensure that American people remember in November the truth. While the Republicans seek to punish and control our most personal decisions, what could be more personal than that? And this is a kitchen table issue. This has an impact on the finances of a family, in addition to the health of a family, in addition to the freedom of families. So again, I thank all of the groups who are with us today for being here, more importantly, for what you are doing in the outside mobilization that people know. And to help people know, we're going to put a bill on the floor championed by Congresswoman Kathy Manning, the lead author. Kathy Manning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, everyone. And as I look around this room full of young women, I realize how important this legislation is. I'm Congresswoman Kathy Manning. I am proud to represent North Carolina's 6th Congressional District. And today I want to talk to you about something that is critically important to women, to our ability to decide whether and when to have a family, to pursue an education, to be economically secure, to protect our health, and to remain in control of our bodies and our futures. And that is contraception. Almost all women will use birth control at some point in their lives, and more than 96% of voters support having access to birth control. And yet, the far right is attacking contraceptive rights. These attacks are not new. Extreme Republican legislators across the country have been chipping away at the right to use and access contraceptives for years. They have been drafting extreme legislation. They've been imposing unnecessary requirements on family planning clinics. They've been limiting funding for birth control. They've been spreading disinformation about how contraceptives work. And they've been trying to ban contraceptive methods like IUDs and emergency contraceptives like Plan B or the morning after pill. And now, Justice Clarence Thomas has made abundantly clear in his Dobbs opinion that it's time for the Supreme Court to consider overturning Griswold, the 1965 case that recognized the right of people to use contraception. Let's not forget that prior to 1965, states actually had laws prohibiting people from using birth control. This rallying call by Justice Thomas and the actions of extremist Republican legislators are about one thing: control. These extremists are working to take away the rights of women, to take away our right to decide when to have children, to take away our right to control our own lives and our own bodies, and we will not let this happen. That's why I'm so proud to be leading the Right to Contraception Act. My bill establishes a federal statutory right for individuals to access and use contraceptives and for healthcare professionals to provide them. It protects a full range of contraceptive methods, including birth control pills, IUDs, and emergency contraceptives like Plan B. It prohibits any state law that restricts access to contraceptives and establishes the right of the Attorney General, healthcare providers, or any individual whose contraceptive rights are violated to bring a civil action against any state or government official who attempts to do so. Congress must immediately pass this bill to ensure people can access their birth control without government interference. We are not willing to play defense on this critically important issue. We are playing offense. My bill will get ahead of the growing threats to contraceptive rights because American women, indeed all Americans, deserve the right to make critical decisions about their health, their family planning, and their lives. After the introduction of my bill last week, 150 members of the House moved immediately to co-sponsor it. With overwhelming support from my colleagues and endorsements from organizations like Planned Parenthood and the Center for Reproductive Rights and a Senate companion bill, the urgency and the necessity of this legislation could not be clearer. I look forward to the House vote on the Right to Contraception Act tomorrow. Swift passage is key to defending reproductive freedom for millions across the country. I want to give a big thanks to Representatives Nikita Williams, Sarah Jacobs, and Angie Craig, and all who have joined me in leading this effort. I also want to give a shout out to my extraordinary staff who have worked so hard on this legislation. With that, I will pass it to Representative Sarah Jacobs. Thank you.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you, Speaker Pelosi, for bringing us together today, for moving so quickly to bring our bill, the Right to Contraception Act, to the floor, and for your unwavering leadership in this post-Roe moment. And thank you to my friend, Congresswoman Manning, for her leadership on this issue, to Congresswoman Williams and Craig and Underwood for working with us on this. As a young woman, reproductive health care is my health care. So I know personally that if, when, and how to grow a family are decisions that are personal and private and should never be decided by the Supreme Court or even by Congress. I've lived my entire life with the constitutional right to contraception, and it's a right I've exercised for decades. Whether it was the birth control pills I used when I was a teenager to address debilitating cramps, the IUD I've relied on for years, or the Plan B I've used at times that was thankfully available over the counter when I needed it. I was recently told that I'm the first member of Congress to talk about my period on the House floor in the last 35 years and maybe ever. Thank you, but honestly, we should be talking about our periods, and we should be talking about our birth control, and we should be talking about the health care that millions of Americans need for their everyday lives. Because this is not a side issue that only affects some of us. This is a kitchen table issue, as the Speaker said. And these threats from Justice Thomas and the Supreme Court are not abstract, not for me and for the tens of millions of Americans who rely on contraception every single day. And they aren't hypothetical. We can't wait for things that once seemed unthinkable to happen to act. We have to act now, and we are. Because the post-Roe era is not going to look like the pre-Roe era. We have more tools at our disposal now, but so do they. That's why, under Speaker Pelosi's leadership, we're moving swiftly to protect all of our rights that are under attack. The right to an abortion, to privacy, to travel, to marry who you love, to not have your digital footprint used against you, and the right to contraception. We will never stop fighting because the stakes are too high and they're too personal. And I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues to get the Right to Contraception Act passed tomorrow. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll pass to Representative Angie Craig.
Thank you so much, Representative Jacobs. Access to contraception is a fundamental right that advances women's health and economic opportunity. Despite that, contraceptives are under fire from activist judges and partisan politicians across this country right now. This is really about rolling back our rights, the rights of American women. I am disheartened. I am disappointed. And quite frankly, I'm appalled that we have to vote on this damn bill at all. First, they voted against codifying Roe. Then 77% of them, don't give the 47 credit, 77% of them yesterday voted against allowing my family and I to continue to exist as a family. This is not an extremist issue. This is an extremist GOP. They have turned into an extremist party, a radical party that is opposed to everything that my constituents value, freedom and liberty and their own rights. It is ridiculous that we have to ask our Republican colleagues to support the very basic notion that women should be able to make their own health care and family planning decisions. These decisions are decisions that should be between a family, a woman, a doctor, and her faith. Just remember that. This is about our rights and our liberties. But in the wake of an extremist Supreme Court attack on reproductive rights, it's critical that we take this decisive action. We're putting these things to a vote because we are going to expose the extremist GOP for exactly who they have become and who they continue to be. Don't give them credit. They are doing exactly the opposite of what our constituents want. Today, in the year 2022, most of the women that I know have been left wondering if their own control over their own bodies and family planning decisions are about to disappear. As long as I and the women behind me and the Democratic caucus are here, we will never let that happen. Ever, ever, ever. And that's why I am so proud to help lead this effort. And that is why we can never let an extremist GOP take the House majority. And now I'd love to introduce my wonderful colleague, Representative Lauren Underwood.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am honored to join Speaker Pelosi, along with my colleagues, Representative Manning, Jacobs, and Craig, to speak about our important vote tomorrow to ensure we protect women's abilities to make choices about their bodies and futures. The decision about whether and when to become a parent is one of the most personal choices that someone can make. For decades, American women have enjoyed the freedom to consult with their health providers about accessing the full range of contraceptive options. Some women choose this care to prevent pregnancy, and many, many women choose birth control to treat or prevent health conditions. It's basic health care. But in the wake of the Supreme Court rolling back nearly half a century of precedent, Americans are facing a new reality, one where an extreme conservative minority are trying to take this freedom away from women and put it in the hands of politicians. We are living in a post-Roe reality where women are criminalized for accessing life-saving health care, and birth control, along with other civil rights, is being threatened. These attacks on women are as personal as it gets. Restricting access to birth control will especially harm Black women who experience disparities in health outcomes and access to care. Black women are 2 to 3 times more likely than white women to suffer from uterine fibroids, a condition that can be treated with contraception. Black women are also more likely to be breadwinners for their families and rely on economic security that does not exist without being able to control one's reproductive life. We are not going to stand by and allow extremist Republicans to take away constitutional rights that the majority of our country supports. It's unacceptable. It's wildly out of step with what Americans expect from their leaders, and we won't stand for it. Our answer to these attacks is simple. Codify the right to birth control federally and ensure women, no matter what zip code they live in, can access the full range of reproductive care, especially birth control. Because reproductive care is health care. As an original co-sponsor of the Right to Contraception Act, I am proud to stand here along with my colleagues in this fight for reproductive freedoms for all. Women deserve the right to access contraception without fear, and this vote tomorrow is about securing that right. The American people are with us. 96% of Americans support access to birth control. Women, their families, and future generations are counting on us. Thank you.
I thank Representative Kathy Manning for her leadership in introducing this legislation. As some of our colleagues have said, we want to put the Republicans on record, but we like to put them on record in support of contraception. We want this legislation to pass in a bipartisan way. But if not, we will remember in November. Secondly, I want to thank Congresswoman Jacobs for her leadership on this, but also on protecting women's data as relates to their personal, shall we say, cycles. And thank you for your courage to being so thorough in your discussion of the matter. And as Angie Craig has said, this is outrageous. It really is outrageous, and it's going to have a terrible impact on communities of color as well as women across the board, families across the board. The hypocrisy of it all, but I'm told not to talk about the hypocrisy. If 96% of Americans are practicing birth control using contraceptives, who are these people who are saying they want to outlaw it? It's about control. They don't like birth control, but they want to control women, and we cannot let that happen. And I thank Congresswoman Underwood, a health care professional herself, for the strength that she brings to this debate. For me, it is a good day in this respect. For decades, I have fought them. They wouldn't even support the rhythm system. When we tried to make adjustments, they wouldn't even support that. They insist on gag rules in terms of conversations about this. Over the years, Republican women would say to me, if I really thought that the Republicans were against contraception, I could never vote for them, but they wouldn't believe that that's where they were. Well, now they know. Well, now they know, and they'll know better as soon as we take this important vote. As many of you know, and some of you were with us, we were on the steps of the Capitol at the end of last week, talking about the addressing the ridiculous court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade and to talk about the right to travel. Today, our Women's Caucus is here. We have votes, and so people are in and out. But the House Democratic women have led the way in this fight over the years, and I commend them all for their determination to just remove all doubt that women are in control of their lives. So with that, we just go to our mantra. We ain't going back. We are not, I guess I should correct my language. We're not going back. Is that right? We're not going back. Thank you all very much.
Great job, Kathy.
Thank you. Oh my God.